This is a WTVA 9 News Severe Weather Update.
Elsie Brown here. We do have a tornado warning in effect now for northern parts of Lafayette County. This is north of the Oxford area, but that is tracking closer right now, getting closer towards Sardis. If you are in Sardis right now, you do need to be in your safe place right now. This is radar indicated severe thunderstorm producing a tornado that was located over Senatobia. This is moving east at 35 miles per hour right now, so that is lined up really just east of Senatobia down towards Sardis, north of Batesville there along 55, but it is getting closer towards Abbeville, Holly Springs in the next few minutes. If I can get a track on that, we're going to be seeing where it actually will be in the next several minutes. Right now we are seeing that getting closer towards Glenville there around 10:52. Getting closer towards Sardis Lake around 11:08, Waterford around 11:20 as that does continue to track into parts of northern Lafayette County. Once again, this is north of the city limits of Oxford, moving towards Glenville, getting closer towards Barr at that time at 10:47. Right now tracking that tornado warning that is in effect until 11:15. That was radar indicated at this time, getting closer towards Sardis right now. So if you are in any of those locations, make sure you are in your safe place. And that safe location is going to be in a sturdy building, lowest level of the floor. You want to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Kind of looking at velocity right now, seeing really where this is located, getting closer towards really just around that Sardis area there around 55, moving over towards Abbeville. This is moving at 35 miles per hour. Let me make sure I did get that timing right on that speed. Yeah, 35. Right now tracking out that tornado warning, moving through parts of Lafayette, Marshall, Panola, and Tate counties right now. That is in effect until 11:15. We are going to continue to see a lot of lightning with this as well. So even if you are just seeing heavier rainfall there, getting closer towards maybe Hernando, but as we are seeing that continuing to push into parts of northern Lafayette County, which is just in our viewing area, we are going to continue to see that tracking through the area. Could be bringing along with it gusty winds, even if you are not seeing that tornado, and sometimes that can do just as much damage as a tornado. Looking at a little bit closer, maybe seeing some more of those roads that it's moving towards. Sardis in between Como right there along 51, 310 right there, moving into Greenville. You need to be in your safe place as that is going to continue to track north and east there around 35 miles per hour. As that does continue to push into parts of Lafayette County, you can continue to see where around 55 it is crossing over right now. So if you know anybody that is in the Greenville, Sardis Lake, even College Hill, Abbeville areas, go ahead and call them, tell them to get in their safe place right now, because we do see that tornado warning in effect for those areas until 11:15 right now. We are going to continue to track a lot of this overnight and into your early Sunday morning, taking a little bit of a wider perspective on that. We do continue to see a little bit more of those thunderstorms down towards Clarksdale, moving into parts of Batesville, Oxford. That right there is just a severe thunderstorm warning at this time, but we could be seeing a lot of those heavy winds, a lot of that heavier rainfall right now. Just kind of restarting, we are going to be seeing that tornado warning in our area in effect for parts of Lafayette County, just north of the Oxford area. This is north of town there, but as we do continue to see that moving into parts of Lafayette County, we do see that in effect until 11:15 right now. Getting a little bit of a closer look, some more of those streets that is going to continue to push along. You can see there around 310 right there, Highway 310, close to the Greenville area here in the next few minutes. As I get a track on that, that is moving northeast at 35 miles per hour right now. Moving towards the Glenville area there around 10:52. Seeing around Sardis Lake 11:04, Laws Hill 11:08. So if you are in any of those locations, you need to be in your safe place right now. That is going to be on the lowest level of your floor. You need to put as many walls in between you and the outside as possible. And if you know anybody in these locations, go ahead and give them the call, give them the heads up, because they may be asleep. With some more of these overnight storms coming through, you need to make sure you do have multiple ways to get alarms or alerts to your area. As we do continue to see this tracking closer towards parts of Lafayette County. Once again, this is north of the Oxford city limits, but just barely. So anybody there in Abbeville, Sardis Lake, Waterford, Holly Springs, you are under that tornado warning that is in effect right now until 11:15 for your evening. This is radar indicated tornado warning, and this is moving northeast at 35 miles per hour right now, pushing out a lot of those gusty winds. That is starting to cross over 55, getting closer towards Aiken, Sardis Lake area, Abbeville, Waterford right now, as we are going to continue to see that moving into the area. Right now, I'm going to let Chief Meteorologist Matt Lobhon step in to track more of this out for you.
And Chelsea's doing an excellent job on this so far here. I mean, these are one of the really hard ones to kind of track overnight, especially when you're trying to adjust to, this one's transitioning. There's a lot of wind in this. The tornado potential is something we're still trying to work out here. And I think to kind of reset things for a moment here, Chelsea, just to clarify, this is still Doppler radar indicated. Yes. There's nothing beyond that with this. And it's been a while, but it is night. It's been a while since we've been able to confirm one on this evening, correct? In fact, even back into Arkansas, has this one produced officially?
I think this one has only been radar indicated.
Okay.
I think the only ones that we've had tonight have been up into parts of Tennessee.
Okay, that's what I thought, and especially, when you're talking about the ones moved into West Tennessee. But this is in one of those traditional, what meteorologists refer to as radar holes, because it's quite a distance away. I mean, you're looking quite a distance away from Memphis there, a long ways away from the site in Monroe County. But we do have, I think, maybe just a close enough shot. I'm going to try to switch this over to our radar there in the airport at Memphis Airport. Now, it's not going to look quite as good on this mode, but we should on the wind mode be able to have a slightly better shot. Okay, you can see there where this is at. This is actually the circulation on that one's kind of curled up here towards Senatobia. Watch the last couple frames here. Kind of like wraps up that direction there. But the fact that you've had a couple of these, I'm going to take this even slower if I can. And we get a lot more scans out of that airport radar. So if you look here, there's one there, kind of another one right there. There's really just a couple of these circulations. And so that's one of the things that comes in contrast sort of to what we've talked a lot about. Over the last 2 weeks, when we've said tornado, it's been accompanied by the words long track violent, indicating, EF2, EF3, EF4 or greater tornadoes. And ones that stay on the ground a long time. Now, this is a completely different script here. This is brief tornadoes, and certainly there's going to be some damage associated with that. But at this point here, I think they're certainly up here closer to Senatobia, a couple. I mean, that's where you see a couple of those. Okay, so how does that relate to Lafayette County? Why is Lafayette County in it? Well, because if you watch this loop, and it plays fairly fast because we get a radar image every minute there from the airport radar. You can see how it kind of curls those up. There's an interaction here where it just kind of spins those kind of up and in. So it's near Sardis here that we could watch the next one of these kind of try to spin up and in there. So that's the reason you have Sardis Lake, College Hill, and Abbeville in this warning, is because of that potential. This could try to kind of wrap that in there. So I'm going to pull off that closest radar for a moment. I'm going to see, you can I think see those dual circulations a little better kind of on this perspective here, on kind of the latest views as well. So you have a couple of areas there where we definitely have some of those going on. So then the question is, what about down here toward Marks, right? So this is what's actually heading more towards, say, Oxford or Taylor or some of those locations. And there are a bunch of little spins on the front of that. Now, none are as well defined as up here, and typically we would expect it more in the interaction up here closer to Barr and Senatobia. Those would be the spots we would be more expecting to see those. By the way, if you could, I'm gonna trade you back here in just a moment. If you will go over tornado safety rules and those sorts of things, we can get that up and going here. What I'm gonna actually do is I'm gonna pause this for just a second here, and I'm gonna put on something here that what we call a hit windshield that will allow us to pull up some of that information here. So give me just a moment to be able to do that.
I should have one in there in mind.
And yes, I'm going to put that in play again, and so that should pop up with that. So give us just a second here as we reorganize one thing, and then we're going to go over some tornado safety rules, that kind of stuff, and I'm going to make sure that the stream is working back here behind the scenes.
I don't think it is.
I think there's one thing that we can try for that, so go ahead.
It is Facebook Live on WTVA Weather Facebook.
Perfect. Okay, so trade me, let's talk wind on that, and let's get a storm track based on that speed there as well. So we'll go ahead and we'll adjust that real quick.
Alrighty. That tornado warning once again moving into parts of Lafayette County. Safe places to be at this time is going to be the lowest level of your home. In a enclosed room, you want to put as many walls in between you as possible. Unsafe places right now, it would be cars, trucks, mobile homes, large open rooms if you do have a barn dominium, open floor plan. Upper floors even not safe at this time. Rooms with windows. You don't want to have windows in there if possible. Make sure maybe grab a helmet, pillows, blankets, kind of keep anything debris from hitting you if there is any of that debris. Right now though, we are still tracking that warning out as we do see that moving into parts of Lafayette County, moving northeast at 35 miles per hour. Still continuing to see that moving through the area, really north of the Oxford city limits, and that does go until 11:15. Kind of still tracking that out for you, 35 miles per hour moving northeast, looking a little bit closer, getting a track on that right now, seeing that getting closer towards Waterford there around 11:12, Sardis Lake 11:01. So here just within the next few minutes. Lake Center 11:22, Potts Camp holding together at 11:28, moving towards Ashland at 11:41, Blue Mountain 11:56. Now this warning does go in effect until 11:15, but there are places back behind here that are in that track that are not in that warning at this time. But right now this is still radar indicated, so we do not have confirmation that this is a tornado at this time. It is still just radar indicated, but just kind of looking at some of this right now, we do see a lot of lightning, a lot of that heavier rainfall with this as well, pushing out a lot of those winds, tracking back closer towards the Lafayette County area, getting closer towards Holly Springs here. So taking maybe the hell, you're already seeing a little bit of those heavier winds there, zooming in, maybe seeing some more of those roads. You can see that along Highway 4, 309 going towards north, 310 Glenville over towards Sardis Lake, Laws Hill. That's where we do continue to see a little bit more of that continuing to push out and track closer to the area. Looking at wind mode right now, still continuing to see that starting to rotate up. You see there along 4, 305. Back towards Coldwater, but as that does continue to push out, still seeing a lot of lightning with that, a lot of wind. So as we are tracking this out, getting closer towards Glenville, Aiken, Wakefield, over towards Laws Hill, Sardis Lake right now, still moving at 35 miles per hour northeast right now. Taking another look at that track, we are going to continue to see that moving over towards Laws Hill, Sardis Lake, Abbeville area. Tracking that towards Glenville 11:51, Sardis Lake 11:05, Abbeville 11:20. This warning does go in effect until 11:15. Once again, this is radar indicated at this time. And for our locations in WTVA coverage area, this is really the northern tip of Lafayette County here. So not much of it's included in this, but if you do know anybody that is in northern Lafayette County in any of those areas, just go ahead and give them a call. They may be asleep. Once again, if you are planning on going to sleep, make sure you do have multiple ways to get alarms right now. You have that WTVA weather app, weather call, Code Red app, that all will send you alerts to your phone or give you a call if you are under those warnings or warnings throughout the overnight hours. You can see some more of those alerts right there. NOAA weather radio, that will definitely wake you up if you are asleep. FEMA app, Code Red alerts. Once again, WTVA.com, WTVA weather app. We are on Facebook Live right now. You can also watch live Is the live stream working, Matt?
Yes, it is working.
Okay, live stream is now working. So for some of those people that may not have cable, may not be seeing us right now, you can tell them to go to the live stream, WTVA.com, or on the news app or on the weather app. You can also access those. We do continue to see this tracking into parts of northern Lafayette County and then also up towards Holly Springs right now. Until 11:15, this tornado warning is in effect right now. That is Mississippi Highway 6 and Jackson Avenue. Just saw a lot of lightning right there. This is on those MDOT traffic cameras in Oxford. That is going to be south of where that warning is, but that is close. What we are seeing right now on those MDOT traffic cameras, still seeing a lot of lightning. I said this earlier in those shows. You could be awoken to a lot of lightning, but this does go into effect until 11:15, and that is starting to track a little bit closer into the Lafayette County areas right now, moving really along that corner right there of Lafayette County, and then north and west is where we are seeing a little bit more of that circulation there on Storm Track Doppler, kind of looking at the velocity right there, trying to see what some of those roads are. Wyatt Tyro Road right there along northern Lafayette County line. As we are going to continue to see this tracking, this is radar indicated. We do not have confirmation that this is a tornado at this time, but it could be. So if you are under this box, once again, make sure you are in your safe place right now. That is, once again, going to be on the lowest level of your home or in a storm shelter in a center room. Put as many walls in between you and the outside as possible. Find pillows, blankets, put a helmet on if you are going into your safe place as well. Just give you all of the protection that you need as you are going into the overnight hours. Right now, taking a wider look, we are going to continue to see this does go until 11:15 right now. This is in northern parts of Lafayette County, also up towards Holly Springs, just south of Byhalia, as that does continue to track into parts of Lafayette County. Now, taking a little bit of a track on that, getting it closer into our area there around Harmontown at 10:55. So really here in just the next few minutes, if you are in that location, be in your safe place right now. Sardis Lake 11:06. Gilton 11:17, Abbeville 11:23, Pottscamp 11:28, Hickory Flats 11:43, Gracetown 11:49, if that does hold together. Still looking outside. Once again, this is not a confirmed tornado. It is radar indicated, but you are still under that tornado warning watch box. If you are in northern parts of Lafayette County over towards Abbeville, Sardis Lake, so make sure you are in your safe place right now. Continuing to track that, we are going to continue to see a little bit of that rotation up towards Highway 4 and then over towards, not sure what road that is. Highway 4. And then 309 is what road I'm trying to see. No, that's fine. Highway 4, 309 there, seeing that rotation starting to curl backwards. But as that does continue,
Go ahead.
to push out winds, even if we are not seeing a confirmed tornado. Still a lot of gusty conditions, and with how much rainfall we have been seeing, or how much rainfall we are still seeing, that could loosen up the roots of some trees and knock those over just as easily, and sometimes winds can do as much or more damage than a tornado. But as we are going to continue to see that moving into parts of northern Lafayette County now near Sardis Lake, so if you do know anybody that lives around the lake, go ahead and give them a call. They may actually be asleep at this time. Wake them up, tell them to be in their safe place right now. Okay, I'm gonna turn this over to Chief Meteorologist right now, who will continue to track this out for you. Once again, tornado warning in effect, northern parts of Lafayette County until 11:15.
And we're just continuing to kind of go back and forth on this as I can see some information behind the scenes and allows Chelsea to kind of do the same. At night here, it's one of those things we kind of we really have to juggle a lot of things, and we appreciate your patience. And so it's just one of those situations where we ask you to just be cautious with this. National Weather Service is going to typically issue these tornado warnings a little more easily at night. But regardless, I think the big headline that Chelsea mentioned a minute ago that's important is that the wind threat on this is every bit as important as the tornado threat. You might say why. It's because the winds on this have potential to be in excess of 70 miles per hour, maybe even 80. And so you're adding 15, 20 miles per hour on that for the tornado, which is significant. but that's, that 70 mile per hour wind or greater could still cause damage. One of the things that we're looking at, there are a couple of spots there where we have some of those circulations kind of showing up as Chelsea was tracking. This part on the north there is where we have probably the tornado in that's kind of heading more toward kind of the west side there of Holly Springs. We'll get a track on the latest on that there up toward Byhalia and some of those folks moving that direction. We're going to go still about 35 miles per hour on that. So if you know some folks there that are going to be traveling in this general direction, about 2 minutes in the Rock Hill, Wakefield in about 4 minutes or so. Continue to move there toward Victoria, 21 minutes, Red Banks in 24 minutes, and about the Mac area in 31 minutes. And specifically for locations there in along I-22, if you know somebody that may or may not be traveling on there between Byhalia and Holly Springs, we're now looking less than 20 minutes, assuming it's still about 35. And honestly, I think that's probably going a little faster than that, but that is the speed which Memphis is tracking that. And what's kind of happened is you can see the circulation's merging up with where there's already a batch of strong outflow winds up there. So that's what we're seeing. So then it's just a little spin-ups on the front side of that. Let's go ahead and reset things here for a moment. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Chelsea Brown, who's been tracking things for you this evening and really all night long as we're tracking a tornado warning that's been issued for Lafayette County and a new one in the last few minutes here that does stretch up to Tippah County. It's the same circulation there that we're looking at that now has prompted that Tippah County warning. So we still have some time. And let's double check the speed that they're going with this, because at this time, looking at that still with the radar indicated rotation, they're now going northeast at 55 miles per hour. So that seems more reasonable. A minute ago, they had it at 35 miles per hour. Now up to 55 miles per hour. That seems much more reasonable. So let's go back up to 55 miles per hour. And let's do that for both of those tracks, and let's get you a more reasonable time here. So as we kind of bring that back in and give you an idea for Ripley, kind of a first heads up there as we're tracking this toward you, that circulation, we'll go to the wind mode to make sure we've got it right. And so that circulation there for Ripley and Walnut and Faulkner, we're still a little ways away there, 40 minutes or so Faulkner, Ripley at about 38 minutes, Ashland 26 minutes, Collegiate there in 47 minutes, and Potts Camp in about 16 minutes. But Holly Springs 10 minutes, it's right on you, Galena, and for locations in the Waterford area. This is a rotation that very well could be a tornado, and if not, it's damaging wind gusts there, pretty much right there over top of the Wakefield area. Now that is northwest of the Lafayette County area, and Lafayette County was part of this initial circulation. But the issue is this and that, and everything that happens along that boundary there, because what has happened is this kind of acts as a quasi-front. So as the strong winds come up here with the thunderstorm, you get this quasi-front that develops here, and so as a result, then your next spin that you'll track along that is back there. There's another one back up and possibly the front end there. So it becomes this really complicated mix of these rotations. So I'm going to try to get it to just the radar site out of the airport there. It's done an excellent job of kind of picking up some of these smaller scale rotations. And the one we'd be looking at, there's a couple here near Wakefield, and then another one's developing there between Chulahoma there and the Waterford community. So that one would be the one that would move more toward Potts Camp. So we have a lot of viewers there that do watch us in Potts Camp. Let's see if we can get an angle to make sure that this doesn't catch us. I think at the very least, though, that's going to be some strong winds that could be up 65, 70 miles per hour or so. See if I can get you a track there. So still at 55 miles per hour for that. Could it be a tornado? It definitely could become one. And this is going to adjust some of those times, because rather than tracking the previous circulation that's back there, we're going to track the leading edge here that could develop into the next one. So Waterford at 11:03, Spraggins in about 11:06, Lake Center 11:09, Potts Camp 11:13, Hickory Flat 11:25, Blue Mountain at 11:33, Ripley at 11:36. This is Doppler indicated rotation and strong wind gusts with this as well. We do have storm spotters out in the field, including our meteorologist Joel Young, that we'll touch base with here in a minute from Lafayette County as he's monitoring things there. The reason we haven't gone to him yet, they're still ahead of things in Lafayette County, but with a couple of those back there towards Sardis, we'll have our opportunity to talk to him here in a few minutes. So what do we need to do here? And let's take this on a broader perspective. What has changed? If you missed our broadcast a little bit ago that we just pretty much completed on WTVA 9 News at 10, what had changed from that and our 6 o'clock broadcast is this. almost all of our Mississippi counties involved in a tornado watch. That means conditions becoming favorable for brief tornadoes in particular, and remains in effect for a good chunk of the overnight period. So unfortunately for those folks that have a tendency to worry, it could be all the way 3, 4 o'clock in the morning before this makes it all the way through Starkville and the Golden Triangle. So we have a number of hours ahead here that we're going to be tracking this. So for those folks, what do? I'll tell you right now what I believe you should do. If you live out here, Columbus, West Point, do you need to stay with us all night until this gets there? No. In my opinion, these should weaken more as they move south and east. That's not to say they won't produce a tornado for you, but the likelihood diminishes significantly. So if you have a couple of these, if you have weather call, if you have weather radio, you have 3 on this list, you can call it good. I would say that, you need to be prepared that if you get that alert that you can go quickly. So I'm not saying that I think you need to stay up with us all night long if you live in some of those spots. It should hopefully weaken before it gets there. But clearly we need to be somewhat on alert, but not necessarily staying up all night long if you're out here on the eastern part of this tornado watch. Just if you have a reliable way to get a warning and you can, within moments of getting that warning, get within steps of that tornado safe place, then I think that's what I think you should probably do. So just a recommendation. If you're Tupelo, if you're in Pontotoc, New Albany, Calhoun City, Grenada, Coffeyville, this is going to be in the next couple of hours for you as it moves in. This is really this initial line here. It pushes in. Rotation will be on the front end. Behind that, it'll be a lot of heavy rainfall and wind and stuff like that. But at least the thinking at this point here is that hopefully these storms will weaken somewhat more as they move farther east. Again, looking at Storm Track Doppler radar, we have 2 tornado warnings, but for 2 counties as well. One of them just clipping locations there in Lafayette County. Another one here stretching out toward Benton County, Marshall County, and back up here into Tippah County. That tornado warning is the longer one here in effect until 11:45 p.m. I'm looking at a discussion back and forth with our meteorologist, Joel Young, and I think we will go ahead and call Joel and talk to him really quickly. So I think he's prepared for that, and I want to make sure that he is in perfect position for what we kind of have back there. So we're watching that closely here in a minute. So we'll get Joel on here. Hey Joel, you're live on WTVA 9 News. From your perspective there in Oxford, sirens going off, that sort of stuff?
I'm not hearing any sirens right now. We are just south of where the strongest wind would be right now. There's a lot of lightning popping off to the north and west of my location right now. So, and that would be pretty much where the strongest wind would be. But right now, I don't have any sirens going off. In fact, my location, you can make the argument that the strongest wind wouldn't get to me until much later. I literally, if I were to drive 5 miles north, 5 to 10 miles north, I would say something different,
Well, let's keep you in the safe spot here and, kind of protect the Oxford area. I know you have a lot of college kids that on a Saturday night don't always pay attention, so it might be a good idea to have some parents, buzz some phones there, and sometimes from time to time that'll catch an attention. But at this point, the worst part's just a little bit north. Joel, if you get something a little bit more, give us a call back. Will that work?
Definitely.
Okay, I appreciate that. That's our meteorologist, Joel Young, in the Oxford area, kind of watching things. He was up early on WTVA 9 News today. Long day for him as he's been monitoring things, posting to social media, that sort of stuff. And we appreciate his hard work that he puts in all the time, but especially on days like this. It's been kind of a long week for Joel. All of us. And all of you, obviously. So report now, and I want to get this from our meteorologist, Chelsea Brown, if we could here. We do believe we're getting a report from some fire folks there near the Memphis area.
Yeah, they're seeing a report, seeing that in the National Weather Service chat of power outages, and that's going to be in the Harmontown community. Okay. And then on 25 to 30 mile per hour wind gusts also in the area.
Okay, so and then now what was coming through at 11:02 there? 11:02,
possible tornado on the ground near Barr community in Mississippi.
Okay, so near Barr. So there's Barr, as you can see, and that would have been, so the report would have been as that came through a couple minutes ago, right there. That would have been about the right spot. So Aiken, where that was at 46, and now, see, now that's pretty much up here, practically the I-22 at this point here. It's kind of moved up here, so it's very close to Holly Springs. No guarantee that that is still on the ground. No guarantee for sure that it was on the ground, because at night you have to wait for lightning flashes. Now there's a lot of lightning to be able to figure out what's going on there, but certainly for folks there up around the Holly Springs area, that should be our assumption that this could be a tornado. And the reason why we're pointing that out is because that will obviously affect some folks there and moving along I-22 within about the next 2 to 3 minutes or so. So we're going to track that circulation there. We'll put it right about Holly Springs, the Waterford area there, track that toward Faulkner, Ripley, and some of those folks. As you can see, time frame there. Holly Springs, of course, about 11:10. We're at 11:05 right now. Potts Camp at 11:16. Ashland 11:27. Faulkner at 11:39. Ripley 11:41. Tiplerville there at 11:43. 11:46 in Walnut and Klebiet at 11:48, assuming it goes at about that rate. The definition, the way in which the National Weather Service in Memphis is describing this at this point here, is that this is a Doppler radar indicated rotation. And this is important because we have a couple of things going on here. This is along a squall line of strong straight line winds. Right along this entire area here, you have winds that could be up around 60, 65, maybe 70 miles per hour. And you get these little nooks where you get little bits of rotation there. That enhancement adds an extra 20, 30 miles per hour to the wind. And so that's where you might get 90 mile per hour winds from a brief tornado. And so the concern is that in some cases, people don't always take these as seriously as when we know for sure we have a tornado on the ground, the bright green next to the red. We need to make sure we're getting into a safe place. We gave you some times ahead. We don't want you to wait until those times arrive for you in Ripley, Faulkner, and Walnut. I think now is probably the time we should be getting at least within a couple of steps of that tornado safe place. And certainly in Ripley, you are in this tornado warning. It would be a good idea to get into one of those. The broader perspective of what has changed over the last few minutes here, as I widen this out and kind of give you kind of an overview, what we have with this line, and this whole line of thunderstorms is going to move in overnight. This is the reason why that tornado watch has been issued. And on this wider perspective, you can see there's a dominant storm here that's going to kind of go up here. It eventually, Corinth and Boonville, a possibility for you, probably more Corinth certainly than Boonville, as it works its way up here into southwest Tennessee up there. But there are other thunderstorms back out about to cross the river near the Greenville area. And then you have this area in the middle. And this area in the middle doesn't have the same kind of damaging wind threat, but that's where you can sometimes get some spots as you have the air getting in there and you get little twists that also potentially produce some of those strong wind gusts and perhaps even tornadoes. So that's the concern we were looking at when we go to the wind mode there for the Oxford area. There's about 1,000 different places in here where you can see there are some interactions, none of which are a tornado now, but all of which have to be babysat and could potentially become one at some point in the future. So at 11:07 p.m., we continue to have a tornado warning in effect for, well, there's two of them technically for Lafayette County, but this north one is the one I think we have to respect the most because I think the initial one there, we're not completely clipping you out there in Oxford because of what's going out back to west of you, but certainly the primary concern is what's going on more toward Holly Springs and what is then moving toward Ashland and Walnut, which is probably 65, 70 mile per hour winds, and certainly watching this. So we do have at least folks out there with the North Mississippi storm chasers and spotters continuing to monitor things there. Don't have a ton of wind reports at this point here, but they do have storm chasers and out at this point, Lafayette County. They have not seen anything yet. As long as we can say that, that's a good thing for where we're at, but certainly watching things very closely in that spots there. So we obviously will have information from them, from Joel, as this continues to move through over the next little bit here. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon. You're watching WTVA 9 News on air, as well as the WTVA weather and news apps and WTVA.com. Lots of different ways you can watch us, as we often talk about. And if your power does go out, as it often happens, of course, available on our live stream at WTVA.com/live. We're monitoring a tornado warning till 11:45. It's crossing through Marshall and Benton counties now. Some viewers can see us in those spots. Other viewers can't. It just really kind of depends on the satellite system. But we have a lot more once we get up here toward Ripley and Walnut that can, and so that's what we're tracking for those folks there. What has been a bunch of spin-ups on this that are attempting to try to produce tornadoes. And so a new severe thunderstorm warning out that's kind of an advanced heads up more than anything. We looked ahead of this a minute ago for folks such as Corinth. There, that severe thunderstorm warning in effect until midnight. That does extend for Corinth there. So why am I mentioning that when we have a tornado warning? Because we are talking about on either of these 70 to 80, maybe 90 mile per hour winds. We're in that zone even just for the severe thunderstorm warnings. They're strong enough, and the wind is what does damage, whether it's a tornado or severe thunderstorm warning. It's because wind impacts you that you have issues. And so the damage tag they describe on that is wind speeds to 70 miles per hour and the description of tornado possible. So even though it's only a severe thunderstorm warning, there is that consideration that there could potentially be a tornado that comes out of that. So that is the reason why. Let's track this whole line here eastward, and for specifically Ripley and Walnut, I don't want you to necessarily go directly off of these times because we're refining the kind of the general risk to give a better kind of first look here for locations in Corinth. Just about midnight for you would be the arrival time. If that held together, Burnsville at 12:15, but in the near term, Selmer at 11:51, Chihuahua there at 11:48, Ripley again loosely 11:35, probably a little faster than that. Hickory, Plaquemine, and Ashland. Let's get in closer and get a little better look at that. So as Chelsea mentioned with that report a minute ago there, related to, let's see if we can pull that up for you, related to that report of a possible tornado. I believe we could probably plot that on here. There we are. So let's make sure the time matches up with what we expected on that report. So near the Aiken area, the Bar community at 10:43. Okay, so that does match up, I think, when that came through there. So we're a little bit removed from that now, but you can see how there was, right before that little icon pops up, that little notch. Those notches are what we are watching for. The more notches we see, and when those kind of pop in there, that's when gives us an idea of where we could possibly see these circulations attempt to develop these tornadoes. They're not typically long-lived, but obviously a tornado of a minute that hits you is something that we need to respect. So with the closer inspection here, let's get a new storm track on this. Close-ish, pretty close there to Ashland, moving toward Ripley and Walnut, as we mentioned. So the Potts Camp community, we're looking at 11:16 for you, Ashland at 11:19, Canaan at 11:24, New Canaan 11:26, Faulkner 11:35, Walnut 11:37, Ripley at 11:38, and Brownfield at 11:40. So Doppler radar indicated rotation. As we go back to the wind mode here on Storm Track Doppler radar, you'll notice how there's this kind of finger of green that goes back into here, right? Extends back into there. And you look at just the rainfall mode, and that's not as evident. So that is how you get these little circulations that can be sucked back into the center of this storm, and that's kind of what's happened with this here. I'm going to switch this over to the radar site out of the Memphis airport there. There's a few moments as it's close that it's the better radar because it has to detect fine scale circulations there for planes and things like that taking off, and so that's the reason why this radar exists. And so it's really good at the wind mode here when you're close to the radar site. And you can kind of see. So I can see it back here toward Holly Springs. They're curling back around. So that's what I was looking for there. I think you want to, of course, protect from the first wave here, which is the strong winds and maybe trying to spin up a tornado. So that's going to be kind of your first heads up, right? So Ashland, Faulkner, that's what we're looking at for you. So Ashland 11:22, Faulkner 11:37. But then at the same time, what I'm also tracking behind that, if we clear that off, is the little circulation that develops. Watch how that moves a little slower there, right? Near Holly Springs, it moves just a little bit slower. And so those there, as that generally moves toward Ashland as well, one of the spots that we are watching. So we're going to keep that. I think 55 might be a hint fast, but I'd rather be fast than slow. So again, in Holly Springs, that part of this moving toward you, Ashland 18 minutes, Faulkner about a half hour or so. This is the slower of the two circulations. There's kind of one on the leading edge. This one could be more developing. If there were to be one more significant, it could be that one back in there just because you get more of an interaction around it. But really, that's splitting hairs. I think in both cases, you definitely should be sheltering, and you should be in that tornado safe place. That's something we haven't talked a lot about in the last few minutes here, so let's kind of make sure we can define what we're looking at here for a moment, which at this point here is rotation that could develop into a tornado very soon. That's the reason the National Weather Service has issued this tornado warning in effect until 11:45. Tupelo County in particular, Marshall County, Benton County, those three are the ones we're most concerned with. This initially started with a tornado warning for the Lafayette County area. That initial warning did not include Oxford. There are storms back west of you, tons of lightning with this. These are going to be strong wind producers, going to produce a lot of lightning as they move in as well. At this point, some rotation, but we're not all the way up to tornado warning levels, I would say, on most of that. As you can see, as that popped off, the reason for that, current time is 11:15. That first one there was supposed to expire at that point. So that is the reason why we're focusing more not on Lafayette County, but up here, Marshall, Benton, and Tupelo counties, is because the threat is continuing to shift eastward, even though they have yet to cancel off the backside. The reason they haven't canceled off this is because you have all that tail back there, and so they want to kind of reserve that just in case something ends up spinning up. So all this jargon, what do you need to be doing? Obviously, we need to be finding a sturdy structure in the middle of the lowest floor. This is what we always call when we say find your safe place. It would be a small windowless room, and take blankets, pillows, helmets, go there and wrap up until you can protect yourself, and of course stay there until we can give you the all clear. And that's going to be still a few minutes away. If you're not in this very specific zone here in the northern part of our viewing area, what do we need to be doing at this point here? I'm going to bring that down. We need to be preparing and making sure, especially overnight here, that we have a reliable method of finding out about tornado warnings, or in this case, severe thunderstorm warnings as well, because the severe thunderstorm warnings will have winds in some cases in excess of 70 miles per hour. So, I mean, that's going to cause some significant damage, maybe even tornado-like damage. So the watch has been issued. So you probably, if you're out here in Corinth or Boone or Baldwin or Saltillo or New Albany or Ecru, and your neighbor has a shelter and you don't, it couldn't hurt to, at least get on the phone with them and say, hey, I might be coming over here to live, but that all good? And just make sure that you're all good to go. And when that warning is issued, if it's a neighbor, go then. And certainly we'll have to watch this very closely. We do expect to see brief tornadoes possibly out of this. So hard-soled shoes, something I'd probably keep handy. Make sure to keep your phone all charged up and ready to go, and have documents and that kind of stuff stashed away and put into a safe place, and preferably even with you, just to make sure that you have everything you would need in that scenario there. So going to the wind mode here on Storm Track Doppler radar, kind of inspecting this more closely once again. I would say all along this leading edge here where you see this red, these are strong winds that are moving here through Benton County and approaching you in Walnut, Faulkner, as well as Ripley, Blue Mountain, Hickory Flat. Potts Camp, it's pretty much on top of you at this time here. Strong straight line winds that could have a few interactions there to try to produce tornadoes. I'm going to kind of go back here on the back part of this line and look back toward Lafayette County. And again, as we mentioned a second ago, the reason this is still kind of here is because of this line extending back and any kind of interactions you could have. At this time, I don't see any specific areas of rotation that are jumping off there as obvious, significant ones at this time. But that could change. I'm going to change radar a couple of times here just to make sure. Nope, I think we're okay at this moment. I'll say that. Hold on. Sardis Lake. I'm going to watch that closer. I'm going to look at this radar because this should be close enough. There's a couple little interactions there from the longer distance away. That looked a little worse than it did up close. I'm going to trust up close in this case over longer distance. Monroe County, which is a long ways away from this, kind of had this circulation back up there towards Sardis Lake. Excuse me, where are we at? Sardis Lake there. A little more impressive moving that direction. This one not as much. So, okay. Just wanting to double check at night. We kind of have to play it as safe as we possibly can. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and wind this, make sure we're not missing something else. And let's actually get a long-range storm track on these storms back out here in the Delta. So those, I believe, are moving in the neighborhood still of about 55 to 60. Let's see what we have. They're still going tornado possible on that. I believe that's Jackson warning on that, and they're going 55 miles per hour. Okay. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and get you a longer range track because this will move in. I mean, we're all going to see some thunderstorms tonight at some point. The question is just how long and how strong. So if I can take away that little tag there in the background. There we go. So it's going to be a while, but we're looking Water Valley close to about 1240. So more than an hour, hour and a half-ish for you in Water Valley. Bruce, just about 1 o'clock in the morning. Ecru about 120. Pontoc 124. Nettleton 132. Tupelo about a 141. Fulton about 2 o'clock, Belmont 214, Red Bay about 219, assuming it holds at the same speed and goes at the same angle. And then clearly beyond that, we have more thunderstorms back southwest that we're going to be watching. So it's going to be a long night for us. Our encouragement for you is if you're not directly in one of these right now, I would probably, not in a tornado warning, and you do have a reliable warning method. This isn't one of those nights I say you have to stay up with us. If we'd had tornado warnings on Thursday, those would have been long track violent tornadoes. These are going to be brief, and that's not in any way to diminish what will happen, but to say that if you live in a sturdy structure, that you can get to the middle part of the lowest floor and be okay. It's not a situation where you necessarily have to have a reinforced structure. Now, the exception to that rule is if you live in one of these what we call unsafe places. If you're living in a barn dominium there, a large open room, that might not be a safe enough place. Mobile home, I would say the same thing. We're talking about site built structure, a slab, conventional foundation that is well built, that has an interior small windowless room. You should be okay in that setting in this case. But if you live in a mobile home, or if you're going to find yourself in cars or trucks, that's a situation where you're clearly not. But if you're in a strong site-built home, you should be okay from these in your safest place in the middle of that tonight. So I'm not saying that if you're in Tupelo or Amory or Holka or Houston or Aberdeen, you need to stay up all night with us, because the thing is that the tornado threat does diminish the farther east that this line moves. In fact, as we kind of put up that risk here for you, as you can see, the primary risk is kind of up here in this zone, Corinth, Oxford, Coffeyville, really more Corinth, Holly Springs toward the center of this, and then diminishes as you go south and east. But the wind threat remains one of the bigger concerns here with this, because these will have wind damage issues. And where you see these white lines here, we show this a lot lately, talk about the tornado threat, but when it comes to the wind threat, that'd be some wind gusts in excess of 65 to 70, in excess of 70 miles per hour possible in this zone if these storms do what they're doing, like up there near the Tennessee state line right now. So current time is 11:21 a.m. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Chelsea Brown, who's kind of monitoring your reports on Facebook, social media, with the latest information on kind of what's coming in there. And Chelsea, I do want to bring you in here for a second just to see at night. We never want folks at home to go spotting on their own, or are we seeing anything here from storm spotters or anything from any of our chasers or viewers for that matter?
Well, I haven't really seen much from viewers in the last few things that I've seen in the National Weather Service chat was back earlier in the hour at 11:01. That was the possible tornado on the ground near the Bar community. And then also close to that area in the Harmontown community, power outages and wind gust 25 to 30 miles per hour. So even really if you are not seeing that tornado on the ground, those winds can sometimes do as much damage as a tornado.
Yeah, and one thing to always mention when you get those reports and it's less than you expect, the storm spotter can only report for that instant at the time in which they are there. And so if sometimes you've probably noticed that when these come through, you don't usually have everybody in the county with damage everywhere. It's isolated pockets where you get wind damage along this. So if this is the damaging portion right there and it's 2 or 3 miles away, you might get 20, 30 mile per hour winds there with a gust of 40, and then up here you get 60, 70 mile per hour winds. So the pockets of those strongest winds tend to be relatively isolated, and I would say that well, and this is just outside our area, but Memphis is probably going to need to issue a tornado warning on this one up here in Tennessee in a moment. That one near the Salisbury area moving toward Middleton. Just because I know folks sometimes watch our stream from outside the area, I'm going to put this on for some of the folks there. They probably need to get, if you know some folks up here and you live in Middleton or Hebron or Pocahontas up there on the just north of the Tennessee state line. I know a lot of folks in Walnut, that's right nearby. Call those friends, let them know you have a chance to possibly save a life in this case, because that's likely a tornado right there. I might as well check for debris while we're looking at it. Let's check the precipitation. It's reasonable that would spin up. That's not a tornado debris yet, but at the very least, that's 70-mile-per-hour winds there, moving near Middleton and eventually kind of tracking towards 64, so Selmer over there. So I'll get you track for that. Then we're going to come back into our area, but that tornado, that's likely a tornado at this instant. In fact, it's not our area, Chelsea, but you might ask Memphis what they think about that circulation.
I can.
Okay. So Selmer, we're looking at about 25 minutes on that. So there's some spots there. Snap a picture. Give some folks, if they live in those spaces, a call to make sure they know that situation. So as we come back to our area, okay, never mind. I think, no, that's Birmingham. Okay, never mind. Sorry, juggling a couple of things there. So directly in our area, the portions of this near Ashland do not look quite as impressive as they did even just a few minutes ago. Let's go and change our radar site here again just to make sure. I mean, I'm still coming up with some fairly strong winds on this. Still straight line winds. Let's see if I can get that. 40, 45 miles per hour or so, just what the radar's picking up in some cases there. But that also has to do with the angle. This is looking at winds going away from the radar. Well, this isn't going directly away. It's kind of going at an angle away. So you don't get the true grasp of those speeds unless it's perfectly at the right angle versus the radar site. And that's not really what I would say we have at this instant here. So that straight line wind potential there is really the main issue at this instant, I would say, with maybe the potential this could briefly try to spin up a tornado. Okay, they did. So they just issued a tornado warning on that one up there. So good for them. So again, for those folks, you have the chance to save a life up there by making that phone call. Please do. If you're looking at these spots here, so Ripley, we're tracking that for you at about 11:37. Faulkner 11:39 in our area. Current time is 11:26 up there. Strong straight line winds, the main issue. With this, perhaps a brief tornado spinning up, and there isn't always a lot of lead time. And that's kind of what I'm going to go back north on that thunderstorm and show you for a moment, is how quickly things can change. So that thunderstorm where they issued the tornado warning up here, you can see it kind of coming on and off. Let's see how quickly that went. So current time is 11:26. We kind of identified it here at about 11:19, 11:20 or so. And then if you go back just a few minutes, you can tell it's strong straight line winds, but the angle in that has changed, where that's not necessarily tornado at that angle. I'm going to see if we can jog our wind direction around a little bit here to maybe get a better idea, because what also is concerning, we talk about these little S's right there near Whittentown. That's not maybe a tornado at this instant, but that's another one of those spots where this is trying to jut out. And when this kind of juts out a little bit more, then what happens is you get the winds to kind of curl back in like that on this. So near Whittentown, we need to make sure we're in a tornado safe place. Faulkner as well. This could be one of those spots that's trying to wrap up a little bit more and could potentially try to produce a tornado. So we're now south of 370, north of, I believe that is 4. Let me double check that. Yes, that's Mississippi Highway 4. So between 370 and 4, west of Whittentown, we show a circulation beginning to get a little more organized. Now, before I hone in on that, and we don't mention, up here in Brownfield or Ripley, know that this might only be 10 miles per hour faster than the rest of this. So this all could be 60, 70, and then that's 80 miles per hour. So the tornado does not necessarily have that much more preference over the straight line winds in this case, because they're typically only a little bit more enhancement with them. It can be significant. That's why we issue these warnings. That's why the National Weather Service issues these warnings, is for that potential. So let's go ahead and circle the area we're talking about so we can check out some other radar sites and make sure that we are good with this. Oops, let's clear that off. There we go. And let's check the rainfall mode. Yeah, you can see just a little notch there starting to show up. Let's go back a couple of scans to see if it matches. It does. So that's what happens. So sometimes, see how this is more north-south there? And if you go back just to about 21 after, it's more northeast-southwest. That change there is the process as this bumps out on the south where it'll try to produce a tornado. So if it's not producing a tornado yet, I think within about the next 4 or 5 minutes, it'll have a chance to do so. So if you know somebody who lives in Whittentown, lives near Whittentown, near County Road 419 in Tippah County, this is moving toward you, this is moving toward Faulkner, and Ripley, certainly we want to be in our safe place as well. the update there. Extensive straight line wind damage possible with this. There have been unconfirmed reports of some mobile home damage back near the Como area. We're working to get some confirmation on that at this time, but I would expect that you could probably have 70-mile-per-hour winds out of this line, and so certainly that's strong enough. We have to be taking this seriously. Now, new scan in. Let's check the wind mode here to see how that's working. The new wind scan isn't in. That should get in here in a moment. But we can pick it out on reflectivity. You see how you have this little thing curling out there ahead? That is our circulation, that little nodule on the front side there, and that's moving toward Faulkner. So Faulkner, if we assume this is still going 55 miles per hour, Faulkner, Tiplerville, Faulkner, we need to be Collegiate in that tornado safe place. So 9 minutes Faulkner, Tiplerville, and 12 minutes Collegiate in 16 minutes. I'm going to refine this a little more, and we're going to put on a whole bunch of places. Pretty much everything that I can throw out here on Storm Track Doppler radar, we're going to make it pop on the map. So say again, it's still 55? Thank you, Chelsea. Appreciate that. So this is pretty much everything we can get in front of this up here in Tippah County. I know there's going to be a lot of Unity churches in different places. We're talking specifically northern Tippah County here. So Blackwell Church at 11:32. Of course, Faulkner at 11:40. We're looking Tiplerville 11:43. Ruckerville Church there 11:43. Bald Hill School near that location at 11:41. Faulkner Elementary School 11:39. Little Hope Church at 11:35. Strong straight line winds, at least potential that this could be attempting to produce a tornado. That's why the tornado warning has been issued. But sometimes the radar, sometimes in this case, you get the strong straight line winds that are just as rough as the tornado. And that's the reason why they've kind of gone with this at this time. Current time is now just clicked over to 11:31 as we are watching a tornado warning in effect for, in particular, Tippah County, where we are watching this. There are other tornado warnings up into Tennessee. A new one coming out, I do think, back out here in the Delta. If it hasn't come out yet, it will be soon for this storm back here around Cleveland. They're going to go with a tornado warning with that. I don't know how far east. I think it'll at least get to Sunflower County there. Probably won't get all the way to Charleston there, but we'll have to see here in a minute based on that. So that should be out. No, they don't go.
By the emergency manager now about the...
Okay, let's go ahead and bring Chelsea's mic up if we could for just a moment here. And I believe you're probably ready. Chelsea, go ahead.
The emergency manager in Panola County confirmed mobile homes flipped over in the Como area that's in between Senatobia and Batesville, I believe.
That was about 10:31. So that was this storm here. If you go back to that, and I'll see if I can plot on those storm reports again here. And as we back this up, let's see, I don't know if that's populated yet. It should be up here. There we are. And so mobile homes flipped over from that. So let's see what did it. See if we're talking that's tornado circulation or something else. Yep, I mean, that's at the very least. Again, this is what we're talking about. I can't say for sure that this was a tornado. I would have guessed maybe a little more there, but this is the wind wrapping into that potential for a tornado. And so that's the reason why I just keep saying wind, and you might say, well, why is wind that important? Because the wind on this could be 70 or more miles per hour. If it hits your mobile home at the wrong angle, it's going to potentially have that potential, that possibility of flipping it.
Another thing that I didn't
So, yeah, go ahead, and let's bring Chelsea back up again here real quick.
With that one, they reported that as thunderstorm wind damage.
Okay, so straight line wind damage, they'll figure out for sure what it ends up being. With the damage survey, they'll go back and look at here. It does look like also in the Independence community, I believe that's this one up here, reports there of houses and businesses damaged and a tree on a house. That would be, again, now that circulation more likely to be a tornado. Now that was that little finger. Remember we were talking about there was a little finger that was kind of sucked back in there a little bit ago? That was that finger where we're talking about the circulation was buried back in there. So that is what's moving through up here, northern Tippah County and more toward Walnut and Tiplerville and folks around those locations at this time. So we're far enough away from the radar that we're not going to see, we never see a tornado on radar. Let me clarify that for a moment here. We never see a tornado on radar. We sometimes get good enough rotation that we can pinpoint where that tornado, generally should be, but we're always looking above the surface. And when we get farther away from a radar site, we have less and less idea of what for sure is going on down at the surface. And in this case, we're kind of high enough up that we just have to make some guesstimations. And the most important guesstimation is that this is probably damaging winds, and it might be a tornado. And the distinction for you is no different. If you live in a mobile home, we have to be in a safe place because this could flip it. It has had a history of within the last hour doing just that for some folks in the Como area in Panola County. So Brownfield, it's basically in the next minute or two on top of you. Walnut, Faulkner, Tiplerville, all in the path of this. Collegiate at 11:43, Cypress 11:48, Lone Pine at 11:50, and Chewalla there at 11:54. I'm going to extend this to make sure we can kind of clip Corinth there and get you a time there as we continue this toward the Theo community at 11:55, Hightown 11:58, and looks like the Hightown area at 11:58 and Corinth at 12:07. Well, let's hear what this is. Hello?
Chief Meteorologist Matt Lobhong with a Weather Call Mobile notification. The National Weather Service has just issued a severe thunderstorm warning for within 1 mile of your smartphone's current location. Severe thunderstorms can produce dangerous lightning, large hail, damaging winds, and very heavy rain that can cause localized flooding. If you must drive your car, do not attempt to drive through water covering a road.
Why did I stop and play that for you for a moment here? Because I'm a meteorologist, so I should know what I'm doing. I was in a severe thunderstorm warning here at the TV station and didn't know it. You know why? Because I'm doing something else. So that's the reason we push Weather Call and these notifications, is because you have a life. And your life is not, even if you're a meteorologist, sometimes you're going to be doing something else. And so we have a severe thunderstorm warning that's been issued now here for New Albany, for Boonville. It's straight line winds. They're watching that same stuff out there. And the reason they've issued it is because now we've had multiple reports. This is a long severe thunderstorm warning. Did you notice that? Hold on. This is Eastern time. I don't know why that's plopping in as Eastern time there. We'll have to double check that. Is it 12?
12:15.
12:15. That's interesting that it would pop it as Eastern time. Is the rest East Central? Okay. I was going to say, to see that was 1:15, that would be the longest severe thunderstorm warning I'd ever seen, pretty much. Okay, so the point is that they want folks all the way out here in Iuka and Boonville and Guntown and New Albany to know that they've had some mobile homes that have been flipped over out here in the Delta because of this. And so, yeah, it's just a severe thunderstorm warning, but those folks just had their house flipped over. So hopefully you don't have injuries. We have not had reports of that at this point here, but that's the reason when we talk about unsafe places, we mention a place that's safe 99% of the time. But tonight's not going to be part of that 99%. It's that 1% tonight that if you live in a mobile home, with the proof that we've already had some flip back out in the Delta, we need to, if you're in this yellow box here, the severe thunderstorm warning, be making our way to a safer location than that a friend or a neighbor's house where they have either a reinforced storm shelter or frankly just a site-built home. You're probably going to be in pretty good shape in some of those spots there. So watching things closely here, and so that's why ahead you need to have one of those alerts in case you happen to fall asleep or you're doing something else, which in many cases is probably going to be sleep. And so at the same time here, in advance of this, we need to make sure that we have some folks paying close attention. And so if you know folks are up here in Walnut, Tiplerville, and Faulkner, as Chelsea mentioned over and over again earlier, give them a call. The gift community out here toward Crumtown, Kossuth, this is generally heading your direction as well. But I see what looks to be like a little circulation there, County Road 341. That was the spot we were watching a minute ago there. The wind right there. This will update here in a second, just south of County Road 341, west of Faulkner. Strong straight line winds out of this, and a potential that could try to wrap up and produce a tornado. And even up here toward Walnut, I show a little more circulation there. I think this is mainly straight line winds, but the straight line winds have had a history of causing damage to this point. So certainly if you live in Walnut, hopefully we're in a safe place, Collegiate, Tiplerville as well. This circulation here this keeps prompting the tornado warning there, and we only have about another less than 10 minutes left under this tornado warning until 11:45. But the reason why we are doing this coverage is because that circulation there could potentially be a tornado, but also that the straight line winds have done enough in their own right. So it's one of those distinctions where we get all tied up on tornadoes. People are scared of tornadoes. It's understandable, and we don't necessarily need to be scared, but we do need to respect the wind that's coming from these tonight. And so that area where we have a circulation that, yes, maybe is a tornado, but is more likely to be strong straight line wind damage. And in either case, the wind is what causes the damage. It's not the swirling of the wind that can have an impact as you get the wind shift from different directions, and the wind hits from one side and then rapidly the other, and it's kind of like breaking off a green branch off a tree. It takes some work to get it done, and you have to go all the different directions. Well, that's the reason a tornado is effective, is it hits you from all the different sides. So there is an added element to the strength with a tornado and the damage it can cause. But it's still wind 70, 80, 90 miles per hour. And that's the kind of tornadoes we're talking about tonight. But that's also about the straight line winds that we're talking about tonight as well. So less than now 3 miles and about 3 to 4 minutes there into the Faulkner area where that circulation is. Let's widen this out. Let's double check down here as we go back into Lafayette County. And southern Marshall County there. The reason we're back here looking at it, we do still have this tornado warning in effect for those spots, but it's the wind in this that we're most concerned with. But right there, Chelsea, I'm going to use your eyeballs a little bit. So toward and away, right in here, just on north of the Lafayette County line there. I mean, that looks a little more interesting. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. Are you?
It looks like it's a little bit more, just that last scan there,
yeah,
a little more north-south. So let's see if the rainfall mode kind of goes with that. I could see that kind of jutting out. One of two things happens when that happens. You either get a tornado that tries to spin up, or this ends up being damaging wind gusts. So Cornersville, Myrtle, you're in the path of this section here that is getting a little bit more organized and a little bit more strong as it works its way that direction. So with the history we've had, that's the concern we have as well. And a couple little spots where we do have rotation back there west of College Hill, and that one we're looking at up there near Cornersville. Let's look at that close radar from the Memphis International Airport there. And it's not always the prettiest, but sometimes it can give us what we need, because it updates every minute. I don't quite see for sure exactly what I'm looking at there. I don't know that that's a tornado. I can tell it's definitely the circulation's trying. That pink return there is a bad return, bad data. Let's see if I can go and look at the rainfall mode. Maybe we can see something more there. This is a type of radar that it gets attenuated, meaning the rainfall has a hard time picking up the strength of the precipitation as well. But what it does still do is it does an excellent job with the wind. So even though it doesn't look as pretty on that or as clean on that, I'm gonna say that that's still enough. We need to treat that in Cornersville, Myrtle, and northern sections there of Union County. Like that could potentially be a tornado circulation. So here are some times that we're looking at as we track that ahead. This circulation is continuing to increase. If it's not a tornado, it's probably 65, 70 mile per hour winds there. So Cornersville within 4 minutes for you, Hickory Flat 10 minutes, Myrtle 13 minutes, Smalco there, and 15 minutes, Sherry and 17, Glenfield 18, Blue Mountain 21 minutes, Bluff, Cowanville, Molino, and Parks all within the next 25 to 30 minutes for you. Circulation increasing a bit more on this. These are not going to be long track tornadoes. This is not the opposite of what we talked about the last couple weeks, but this is the other side of tornadoes. The difference between the ones like in Alabama where they sat down and stayed down for 30, 40, 50 miles. In this case here, these are down for a mile or two. Now, if you're in that mile or two, it's a big deal. But if you're not in that mile or two, they can pick up fairly quickly. So there's at least that somewhat positive to the situation there. But Cornersville, you are in the path of this. You're also, for Cornersville, the concern I have looking at this here, this is a weird situation where I think someone who lives just west of Cornersville here probably has not gotten a weather call. And the reason is not because of the way weather call works, but it's the way these warnings are drawn. Because this does not include, the severe thunderstorm warning does not include this little notch here. And the tornado warning doesn't either. It's kind of a no man's land in between. So as weird as this sounds, you know, if you know somebody on 349 out there south of Bethlehem, west of the Darden community in Union County, give them a call, because this circulation might have hit a spot here where it hits a weakness in the system. Then the Weather Service doesn't draw the box around it, you don't get the call. So the Weather Service has to draw the box, and they've done it, but it's left this little hole here. So if you know someone who lives near Cornersville, give them a call. It could be a life-saving phone call at this point here, just in case. So our circulation has moved just a little bit east of that. It definitely is still there. I'm going to check another couple of radar sites around here just to make sure that we're lining this up perfectly. Yeah, we're pretty close there. Yeah, that's a weird situation that you actually catch the spot there in between warnings, but I think that's what's kind of happened there just because of the way they've been drawn. That's just human beings, doing this, and they do the best they can with a computer system. So hopefully they know that needs to be something they take seriously. Hickory Flat, and I would say all along this line, again, Hickory Flat back here toward Blue Mountain and Ripley up here toward Faulkner, strong straight line winds. There'll be a couple spots where maybe we can get some of that rotation to form. But strong straight line winds remain the big deal. And that's the reason why here in about 30 seconds, the National Weather Service, you're going to see this red tornado warning go off, and that's going to change the severe thunderstorm warning. The thing about this is the tornado confidence level 45 minutes ago was fairly high. The tornado confidence level now is fairly low with the exception of Cornersville. Next scan, we'll have an excellent idea on Cornersville, but most of what we've had up here, the tornado confidence has left us a long time ago. So as that pops off the map there, we're looking at severe thunderstorm winds that could be up in excess of 70 miles per hour. And that's the reason, honestly, the biggest reason we've continued this, because those winds have already been associated with wind damage back out in the Delta, including the flipping of a few mobile homes near the Como community. So Ripley at pretty much this instant here, it's over top of you. Lone Pine 1149, Crumtown 1156, Gift community at 1159, Kossuth 1201. We're showing Corinth at 1208 based on about the 55 miles per hour. And the fact that time's gotten a little slower means this line might have slowed down just a little bit, probably closer to 50 miles per hour if that is the case at this instant here. But I'm gonna slide back here. I want to make sure that we know what's going on in this Cornersville circulation, because this is clearly the one that we've watched very closely. As I kind of watch all the colors joggle around, I'm looking at different radars here to get an idea. I think I have a better position here. I would still put it along 349 there, maybe just north of 349, moving here toward County Road 1. I believe that's County Road 1 there in far northwest northwest Union County, where I would have that. So let's get a new track on that there for this circulation. I'm going to put one of those tracks where it lists every little thing that it can possibly find as it moves toward Myrtle there. So I think that's Amaziah Church, Ebenezer Church, both within the next 5 to 8 minutes or so. Hickory Flat in 1153 there. Other locations in Hickory Flat. Myrtle at 1156, Myrtle School 1156, and Beulah Church at 1158. So a little before midnight as we continue to watch this new scan. Let's see where we're at with it here. Oops, and I think I just pop this back one segment here in our computer system. But what it definitely shows is the other thing that probably needs to be mentioned at this moment here, which is that most of the area is under a tornado watch at this time. And we do expect that we'll probably be tracking these kind of storms for a number of hours. But at this moment, we have no more tornado warnings. So here's what I am going to do. We're going to check this again. We're going to keep on NBC, I think, for a little while here, just to make sure, until we're sure that that's not going to spin up another tornado, or we're sure that we're not talking about 70-mile-per-hour winds. But we do have other severe thunderstorms back to the west and tornadoes that we'll have to potentially watch going forward. So let me slide this back down here and get this back into play mode on the storm that we're watching. And again, it is the strong straight line winds and the possibility of brief spin up tornadoes that have prompted this severe thunderstorm warning you see next to me, in effect until 12:15 in the morning. And I'm interested to see why, for whatever reason, this is picking up on Eastern time, but for whatever reason it is. So let's anyway, so we'll translate that back to 12:15 for the severe thunderstorm warning there. And then definitely not going to be all the way to Saltillo at 12:15 there, close to where our station is. So let's come back in here, look at our little notch. Cornersville, strong straight line winds, at least some circulation there. That hasn't taken the full step to produce a tornado, though, at this point. So let's disengage for a moment. Let's make sure we're not missing something up here on the line closer to Faulkner. County Road 200, again, a little circulation there. That was that same spot that we were watching earlier. I think the rainfall does a better job of showing that little notch, and luckily at this point, even it does not do as good a job of showing it as what it did a minute ago here. Yeah, there's still a couple spots there where that's kind of spinning up, but not quite at the level. So let's walk down the line and see if we can send some folks back to programming. Bethlehem, Cornersville. Nope, that's borderline. It's borderline. It's not as strong as it was a minute ago. All this is kind of developing. You have little notches here. But these are all storms being ingested in. They're not strong enough. The rotation's not exactly in the right spot. Going west toward these storms, back out in the Delta, this tornado warning near Drew, strong winds on that one there. You can see how that's really wrapped up. And again, that one's probably more on a Water Valley sort of track, maybe Coffeyville based on that angle there. Water Valley, maybe even southern Lafayette County back out here to Toccopola and Pontotoc. It does pull just a little more north, kind of looking at that latest scan there. So let's go ahead and get you a longer storm track on that one. And let's get one where we have it 55, and we'll use what we call a cone track on that. So 55 miles per hour, and let's track that. There'll be a bunch of spots not in the area first, and then we'll get a whole bunch of locations that are. And so this is a fairly wide track, so a lot of folks will pop into this one here. But Water Valley and Coffeyville, about an hour from now, a little less than an hour for you. That could be tornado warnings for you in your future. So couldn't even hurt if you don't have weather calls, something like that. We recommend it, but set an alarm to check in on that if you just can't keep your eyes awake. Taylor about 1256, Oxford about 103, Vardaman at 112. Of course, that would be more on the south side here. It's probably going to stay a little north of that, but there will be more thunderstorms eventually make it through there. Houston, Pontotoc about 128 there. This would be on a path that take it more toward eventually Tupelo about 146 or so. So we still have some time there. Aberdeen, Amory, Mantachie, all eventually there a fairly long time from now. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to send you back to regular programming on ABC, Fox, MeTV, and we're going to keep you here for a couple more minutes on NBC. And so if necessary, we'll cut back in on all these channels. I know it's kind of the middle of the night for a lot of folks. We apologize, though, still for interrupting. Saturday Night Live and some of those other programs that are typically on at this time. Keep it here for the best coverage. And just know this, that severe thunderstorm warnings, if your phone gives you one of those tonight, treat that like a tornado warning, because it could be strong straight line winds that have proven to be strong enough to flip a couple of neighborhoods back in the Delta. So treat straight line winds, treat severe thunderstorm warning as significantly as you can. Keep it here for the best coverage. Okay, for those of us continuing on NBC, we're going to reevaluate the part of this line up here closer to Crumtown, and this is the part where we've kind of had those notches over and over again. I think the speed, I'm going to get an actual speed on this. I'm going to use our system and raw figure the speed on this, because I don't know that I fully trust the one the Weather Service has given us on this. I don't think this is quite 55. It might be. It might just, yeah, see, that's closer to 40. At least that part of this is moving closer to 40. So that's why these times in Corinth have been a little off. We've been going on the Weather Service 55. Let's drop it down to 40 miles per hour. And then, so at 40 miles per hour there, which will give you a more realistic time here. Corinth, now with that more realistic time, about 12:18. I know we've kind of been backing up that number a number of times here because we were expecting it to come in a little bit faster. We're now back to 12:18 for you. Crumtown 11:59, Theo at 12:01, Collinstown at 12:02, Biggersville at 12:20, Farmington at 12:24, Strickland at 12:30. Strong straight line winds. The S shape you see here is the reason why we're concerned about that potential that this could try to produce tornadoes, because sometimes at that S there, that little kink that you have, that's where you have a little localized enhancement in the winds. And actually, I think we have it there. 10 out of 10 times you send some people back to regular programming and it seems like it gets more interesting, unfortunately. County Road 202, that circulation, it's not strong, but the fact that you have it kind of pulling back in there, ingesting around that spot, that's enough at the distance here. We're a fairly large distance away from the radar site. That's far enough that it could potentially be a circulation, a tornado trying to get a little more organized. Go back to rainfall mode there. It'd be back kind of within it. Let's double check debris, which it's highly unlikely in this situation. It's pretty likely tonight we will not detect debris even if tornadoes happen. Typically these tornadoes are fairly shallow and they don't have a tendency to loft debris up. So whereas on the typical supercell individual thunderstorms, we can use that and really dig in deep and figure out and confirm that we've had a tornado touchdown. We're not going to get that kind of confirmation tonight, unfortunately. And hopefully won't get it because it doesn't happen. But I know that we probably won't get it even if it does. So right there on the panhandle of Alcorn County is where I would put our circulation there, just on the edge of the Alcorn-Tippah County line. This is going to move in a direction there where it is still heading toward Corinth. It is a Doppler radar indicated rotation. It might not develop into a tornado. It might just be a localized enhancement that gets you up at 65 or 70 mile per hour winds. We're going to keep that about 40 miles per hour. I'm going to give you the minutes until for locations up here around Corinth and Farmington. Corinth, we're now down to 24 minutes for you. If you know some folks that maybe live there, give them a heads up that this could potentially be a tornado heading toward them, or it could be strong straight line winds that have a history of causing damage. We don't usually get those reports until well after the fact, but something we're certainly monitoring at this point. In fact, Chelsea, if you get a minute, would you be willing to call up to Tippah County and see if we can find out something from the EMA there?
Yeah, I can do that.
There should be one of the red folders.
My phone's the one on Facebook Live.
Huh?
My phone's the one on Facebook Live.
Okay. You want to use mine?
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. Appreciate that. We're always juggling. Is your phone plugged in?
No. Facebook.
Is it? Oh, thank you. Does it have enough power?
Yeah, I had it charging.
Yeah. Okay. So that's good there. All the things we have to juggle in the middle of the night here with those. So I apologize for the back and forth and the stuff like that we're working on here, and we'll hopefully get a little more information. Hopefully we can confirm nothing. That's obviously the goal, to confirm nothing from this. But a lot of times these emergency managers don't have a lot of information until a little after the fact. In fact, one of the things we can do here. Hold on. Depends. So I'm looking here from. So you'll notice this changing up toward Hickory Flat. This is Memphis Radar. We're in this weird spot where I can just kind of barely move it and get back and forth. But let's make sure that wasn't something. Or is it still something? I think that might have been a radar artifact, just because it was looking so far away. Sometimes it codes in a little weird. I think that's what happened there. Still, that circulation we were looking at, Cornersville and Myrtle, still does have some organization to it. Let's get you a storm track. Let's catch Cownville in that. Dumas, Myrtle, just in case. Potential maybe for some wind damage out of this. Myrtle, 7 minutes there. Cotton Plant, 17 minutes. Cownville had 25 minutes. Halltown, 33 minutes. Jericho and Alpine, 35, 38 minutes for some of those spots there. Strong straight line winds. Maybe some rotation that tries to produce a tornado with that. Make sure you don't have anything Lafayette County. I think we're good. And then obviously this one back west that we've talked a lot about, still have some time before it gets there. The description with a severe thunderstorm warning that comes all the way up through Charleston and will approach Coffeyville, Grenada eventually. They're still going tornado possible on this. So they've decided not to extend the tornado warning there. They're just going to go tornado possible on the severe thunderstorm warning, which kind of treats it like a pre-tornado warning just in case. So there's something out there in case it has to ratchet back up. There are reports from the town of Crenshaw that there's a tree on a house and power lines down. Emergency management officials heading over that way to survey the damage. That's James with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters reporting that. Appreciate that. Let's see if... Okay, and Sandy with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters, as mentioned earlier, damage with a tree on a house and businesses damaged in the Sycamore Road and the Independence community in northwest Mississippi. So both those reports northwest of our area, but we, again, don't usually get these reports until after the fact, especially at night. So when we get them, we kind of have to guesstimate forward where some of these could end up being. There are a bunch of little notches here, right there. Hickory Flat, the one we've been watching, a couple big Abbeville back toward Techville. But if we, I think, go to the rainfall there, you'll notice they're also not quite in the right spot, but not exactly in the wrong spot either. So let's check the closest radar there. Let's go to the one out of the airport. I don't know. There's not enough there to count any of those as a tornado at this point. But those are just ones we have to watch pretty closely. Now, what we do have up here is they've gone tornado warning on our thunderstorm, on our circulation. Hey, if we could, back of the back, let's go back on the rest of them again. They've gone tornado warning on our Crumtown circulation up here that we've been watching. So they've gone that until 12:15. So that's a tornado warning now for Alcorn, Tippah counties until 12:15. Let me double check this. Yeah, it's just Alcorn, Tippah, and then of course McNairy County on the Tennessee side. But there's our circulation. We were looking there just a moment ago. You could make another argument for another one near 72, but I'd say this is the more likely one. It's because we have both of those there that we're going to go ahead and track the whole thing there. They have reduced it to 45 miles per hour on their movement as well. So I think we're kind of in agreement on that. So, of course, Crumtown, it's over you right now, pretty much the next minute or two. Theo at 12:05, Kossuth 12:10, Winnesoga at 12:13, Allentown 12:15, Corinth at 12:21, and the Acton community at 12:27. Let's throw on as many locations onto this as we can. This is now after midnight, and when I list those most deadly, tornado situations that we're concerned about, and we list unsafe places. Any place is unsafe if you don't know it's coming. And you're not in the safest portion of your house. So there's going to be a ton of folks that come on here, and then we're going to drill down a little bit closer. But folks in Kossuth need to know this, so give them a call. Let me clear this off. This will be what we call the all squall. Okay. So that portion there, we'll take it up to Corinth. So there's going to be a lot of spots to kind of pop on this map. So Crumtown there, 11:59. Cedar Mound Church, this would be in Alcorn County there. We're looking at midnight for you. Lick Branch Church, Tishmingo Chapel Baptist Church. That is not in Tishmingo County. This is in Alcorn County that we're mentioning that there. We're mentioning that for you at 12:05. Kossuth, 12:06. Roscoe Turner at 12:10. Allentown, 12:11. Corinth at 12:17, Oakland School at 12:19. As we're continuing to watch that tornado warning issued for these locations. If you know somebody who lives near one of these, giving a phone call, an extra alert, an extra bump from you could be that phone message that saves a life, so that they know that this is at least damaging winds. It could potentially be a tornado attempting to spin up there near the Crumtown community in western Alcorn County.